Episode 1219 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, September 22nd. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, I am very tired, and that's why I said November. How you doing?
I'm very tired as well, and I would like to thank the good folks at J.C. Penney for delivering me a Cow King box spring and a queen mattress.
Did you
Um,
roll off like onto the extra part of the box spring at any point?
no, but it does feel like I'm sleeping on the top of a pyramid because I've got to like take steps up, and my 4-year-old decided to come jump into bed with us last night, which did not end well for my sleep. So, I told JCPenney until they fix it, they're going to get an unnecessary shout out on the podcast because that's garbage. They told me it might
No,
take 2 weeks to get the new
you
mattress.
accepted it. What were we supposed to do? We didn't know it was wrong.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. That's so frustrating. Hopefully that gets sorted out sooner than later, but it sounds like it's going to be a few weeks. Your sleep might be agitated. Plus, the way with the titles and everything that you're chasing, you're already on edge. You need your damn rest. So you figure a new bed was going to help you get that, but now you're going to have to deal with the nerves and, restless nights. So hopefully that gets situated sooner than later. We're going to dive in on the two steps for the final week of the regular season, man. It's been a long one. I think I mentioned this last episode. I'm a little bit looking forward to the end of the regular season. I'm ready for the decompression. It's been a fun season. It's been a great season. I cannot wait for the playoffs. I think they're going to be incredible this year. But the daily grind, I'm ready to downshift for a little bit. Usually October, the decompression month, and then back at it in November. And I'm sure the juices will be fired right back up in November as they usually are. I already got my invite to write for the HQ Forecaster. That always gets me going. So I'm excited. But let's talk one major piece of news before we get into these two steps. This was a big surprise, Justin. Prospect Junior Caminero for the Tampa Bay Rays is being called up for this final week plus here. Is a big time prospect here. My man not only can't drink, his age doesn't even start with a 2. He is, well, actually now it does. Sorry, for the last 80 days, he's been 20. He turned 20 on July 5th, so I'm wrong there. But he cannot get a legal drink. Junior Caminero, age 19 season spent at double and high A, crushing both levels, skips triple A, coming to the majors. Is this something that has some merit for you down the stretch? Or is it a reward for an excellent season? Get some stipend, get a little experience, meet the guys a little bit more, and then we'll catch you next year to really go off. What do you think of Junior Caminero here in this final week? Pardon me.
I mean, I guess it could just be like a reward for, a really great single A, double A season. And, kind of a little like shot in the arm, like, hey, you're our dude. See, you're already up at the major leagues at 20 years old. But it also could be like, hey, the Rays are still trying to track down the Orioles. I don't know that they're going to. And they want, to make sure they've got the highest seed possible heading into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're only a game and a half back, by the way. I want to let you know. It's right there.
Oh, that's right, because they blew that game against Houston the other night.
Yeah, they're 6-4 in their last 10. Orioles 4-6. So the Orioles aren't exactly floundering, but it's tight coming into this final weekend and then next week. So they have every chance out there. They do play now. They only play 5 next week. So from a fantasy standpoint with Junior Caminero, that does mitigate any interest you might have, even if you think he's going to play. 2 at Boston, 3 at Toronto. Baltimore has 2 at Washington, or 2 home to Washington, 4 home to Boston. So they're home all week. They have an extra game there. So that'll be interesting. And then each obviously has a weekend set. Tampa Bay gets Toronto again. So they're going to play them this week and then close out the season with them. And Baltimore has Cleveland right now. They started that series yesterday. That's a 4-gamer. So I would say schedule favors Baltimore, but Tampa Bay is certainly in the mix for that number 1 seed, which, hey man, you want that bye, right? Like,
yeah,
I know the rust thing, but this is not a long-term buy or anything. I don't think you're rusting over and you get a chance to really set your you really get to set your lineup and everything. And I think the rust in the playoffs is more when the playoffs are kind of going, and then like you sweep the LCS and you kind of wait for your World Series opponent. There's always talk of like, oh, are they gonna? Is it better to play 6 or 7 and then get into the World Series, or is it better to have that 4-0 and then you kind of wait? So I think Tampa Bay is going to be going pedal to the metal, but Isaac Paredes plays third. Are we going to see maybe Junior Caminero at some short?
Yeah, I think if he plays, he's going to play short. And I think Taylor Walls was kind of banged up too. I think he was dealing with. So, I mean, I think he could play rest of the way, or maybe like 4 of their last 5 games. And so, like, if you're in a daily moves format, maybe he is a guy that you'd be interested in picking up. I mean, here's the thing. At this point in the season, any player can get hot. Like, any player could just have a huge final week, hit a couple bombs, and
be your hero, right? Like,
yeah.
I was just mentioning to you that I was quite surprised that Miguel Andujar is back and raking. Yep. He's cooking right now with the Pirates, and that's a name blast from the past. At this point, he's 28. He went 3 for 4 yesterday, so you never know where it's gonna come up. So Caminero, he's a $1 or $2 guy. I don't think you're going crazy. Everyone's out of fab anyway. I think he's at least on the list, but with the 5 games, he is lower on the list for me than
in weekly leagues. Yeah. If you're in like NFBC format where you can make Friday switches, maybe you decide like, hey, I'm not going to use them at the beginning of the week, but I'll use them at the end of the week. If maybe he has like one of those 2 big early games in the week, and you go, okay, maybe he's hot right now and I can throw him in there. There's a ton of power. A ton of power. There is some speed though. I mean, he was, I think, 5 for 10 or something like that. Not
exactly sure when to go, but they let him run a little bit. But 31 bombs in 510 plate appearances in the low minors for the 19-year-old Junior Caminero. Again, now 20, but this is his age 19 season. Unbelievable year, and again, skyrocketing up prospect lists. Going to be a top 5 guy across the industry.
Yeah, I think he already is,
without a doubt. Yeah, I think especially for places that update their list as things go, I don't see how Junior Caminero is not up there, and I think he might be in contention for the number 1 spot, right? I mean, Jackson Holliday's there.
Jackson Holliday's the dude. Jackson Holiday is the dude.
I think you could put Caminero at 1, and I don't think it would be completely out of pocket. But you got the Jacksons, you got Holiday and Chorio, Skeens, Cruz.
Wyatt Langford is having an unreal start to his career. When you do first year player drafts, it was going to be like, oh, who do you take between Cruz and Skeens? Cruz and Skeens. But I think Wyatt Langford might be the guy because I think he's maybe up before both of them, and he is just absolutely matching his way. He's already at AAA.
I was just saying, I kind of wonder, does he get the last week call? I don't know if they have really a spot for him in Texas, but Wyatt Langford absolutely dominating right now here down the stretch, making his name known and putting himself high on lists. I'm trying to see here. Did they already take him off? Man, MLB does not. Oh, no, he's right there in front of my face, number 6. So they had him number 6 behind the 2 Jacksons, Holiday, Chorio, Skeens, Cruz, and then Ethan Salas, the 5-year-old catcher, who is just unbelievable. He turned 6. I think he has his 6th birthday party today.
Yeah.
It's going to be a Paw Patrol theme. So good for him. And then he has to go to his AA game and continue to be an elite catcher. I'm obviously joking, but my man is 17.
Yeah.
He is legitimately 17, Ethan Salas.
And here's the crazy thing. I've seen some lists have him with an ETM next year.
I mean, he's in AA. Why not?
Yeah.
You're literally a call away at AA.
We're talking about a guy like
the guy we're talking about.
I think 17 to start next season.
Mans can't vote. We're always talking about how this guy can't drink, which I just did with Caminero. This man cannot vote. I can't even call him a man yet. He's a boy. Ethan Salas is a boy.
Yeah.
But, I don't say that to degrade him or anyway. I'm just saying it's unbelievable what Ethan Salas is doing. He's a catcher for the Padres, for those that don't know him. Big-time prospect. But anyway, put a bow on Caminero. You're in the bids, but not your top guy.
Yeah. I'm probably in the bids. If I need third base, which is where I think he's going to be eligible in most formats.
Yeah. if I'm taking some power Hail Mary,
Yeah.
or just I'm interested in power, he's on my list for sure, Junior Caminero, but probably some better guys out there, particularly just because of the 5-game situation.
Yeah.
You need every opportunity you can get, and we don't even know that he'll play all 5. So a guy to know, somebody to keep an eye on, but you really want to make sure that you know him for next year because he could break camp and be an absolute G with them. All right, let's get into the 2 steps because obviously the big final week here, everyone's going to be making these tough decisions. And we want to equip them the best that we can. Obviously, there's going to be certain guys that we're not covering. You guys don't need us to tell you that Zach Gallen, Kyle Bradish, Justin Steele, guys of that ilk. And I want to say that, maybe before yesterday's game where he struck out 14, maybe Hunter Green would have been on the list. But he's been excellent in his 3 September starts, including that 14K game against Minnesota, that I believe he is an easy start, especially because both are on the road at Cleveland, at St. Louis. So he's an automatic 2 that we're not going to discuss. Let's start with somebody who's had his ups and downs throughout the year, started off brilliantly, hit the skids, but then has bounced back, and now he's been solid down the stretch. Last 2 have been a little bit wobbly. That's Bryce Elder with Atlanta. He gets a double home start against the Cubs and Nats. He did walk 5 in his last outing. That's pretty uncharacteristic, although actually maybe not. He does have more 4-walk games than I would have thought. He has 4 4-walk games, this 5-walk game. So never mind, it's not that uncharacteristic. Sometimes Bryce Elder's control does leave him a little bit. He feels like one of those command and control guys, but he's not. He's more of a finesse guy, but it isn't built on necessarily elite control. 12-4 on the year, and I bring that up specifically because you would think if you're hunting wins, Bryce Elder might be a guy you're interested in. Obviously, he's already rostered in 15s, and we're almost certainly starting him there. But what about maybe 10s and 12s where Bryce Elder might have some availability? Are you scooping him?
Elder is you would think he is like a command control guy, but he's more of a kitchen sink guy, right? Like,
that's a good way to put it.
He's got 4 pitches. He doesn't throw any of them 40% of the time or more. And so like he kind of just keeps you off balance by mixing pitches correctly. And when he doesn't mix pitches correctly, or they try to throw too many pitches that he doesn't have command for or control for, then there's in trouble.
It's probably 10s, by the way. I'm looking. Yahoo is at 79%. So it's not even so much a pickup. I think it's more a start if you have him question because he is, again, being on Atlanta, piling up wins. He has a 3.63 ERA on the season. So I want to just point that out that he might not be available so much, but it's more of like, are you starting him if he's on your roster, Bryce Elder?
That's a really tough question because, one, the Cubs are a good offense, right?
Sure, but they are floundering.
Yeah. And while Washington isn't a good offense, they make a lot of contact.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And who knows? The Braves have everything wrapped up at this point, right? Like how deep does he even go in that second start? So I think if
they need to protect him though. I feel like they let him go. Maybe like Strider and Fried are the guys that kind of maybe get peeled back. I think Elder could. You're not wrong to bring it up, but I think Elder with his status could be, you can just go and do what you want. Because if he starts in the playoffs anyway, which I'm not sure he will, I think he'll probably be a reliever. It would be later in the playoffs because they have a bye too. So don't forget that. There's no real need to protect him if he's dealing. He should still be able to go 6 innings, I think.
Especially early on in the playoffs. I mean, they wouldn't start him because they've got Strider, Fried, and Morton, right?
Morton, or Wright. Wright's back.
Yeah, Wright's not been great.
True. So. Either way, I don't think Elder needs to be managed. So if he's not hurt or anything or any reason to slow him down, I think you can reasonably expect him to get a pair of 5-inning outings as long as he's not walking the yard, which seems to be when he goes wrong, it ends up being walks for Elder.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're win seeking, I get it.
100%. I think it's an easy one if you're win seeking.
Yeah, if you're looking for wins. If you're looking for ratios, I might go a different direction, man.
That's a little more dicey if you're going for ratios. But if you're win seeking, I think it's 100%. If you're just trying to get kind of everything, you're just going for pitching, I still think he's pretty close to 100%. I like that both are at home too. Pitchers just generally are better at home unless maybe you're a Rocky or a Red. And he has fulfilled that. Bryce Elder is 3.26 ERA, 1.15 WHIP at home, 4.05, 1.34 on the road, and he's 7-1 versus 5-3 on the road. So win-loss record, I don't want to get too hung up on home road, but everything about Elder has been better at home. So I'm going to go yes in most formats.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, it's not like with rosters only expanding 2 spots in September, it's not like even Atlanta can sit a bunch of guys, right? Like
exactly.
They still got to put out a pretty damn good lineup just because you have to field a full, 9 guys in the field. So,
and the one spot's in a good spot for them right now. Not that I'm sure that they would care that much about 1 versus 2 because both get a bye. But for World Series home field advantage, they might be playing for that a little bit. So unless the Dodgers, if they sweep this weekend and then the Braves,
How dare you say that?
Well, they're facing an easy team.
Yeah.
And so if the Braves go 1-2.
The behind me with my
I see it.
Playoffs are dumb.
Playoffs are dumb. Wouldn't know about him as a Tigers fan. So
lost in my head-to-head playoffs in the Sleeper and the Bus head-to-head playoffs league.
I'm crying a single tear for you.
Yeah,
single tear comes down. I got you in there.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
I did my best to get you in the playoffs. And by the way, we're not suggesting anything nefarious. I was just playing out the string and putting together the best lineup I could, and it helped. Just to get there. But yeah, we like Elder for the most part there. I think he's going to be pretty high on the list of guys that you're going to start in this realm here. What about Tanner Houck? Tampa Bay and at Baltimore. That is very difficult. He's been a mixed bag here down the stretch. 2 starts ago, it was 6 scoreless against the Yankees. You love to see that. The subsequent start, which happened just 3 days ago, was 4 innings, 2 runs, with 4 walks at Texas. And he's another guy where walks can get him a bit when Tanner Houck isn't at his best. Is there any scenario where you're going with this Tampa Bay and at Baltimore that isn't just a pure Hail Mary mode?
Yeah, I'm glad you said Hail Mary mode because I was going to say, if you're Catholic and have a rosary, you can pray the whole time he's starting for you. Because, legitimately, there's very few spots where I would use Houck.
100% here. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I should say not 100% using him. That was confusing. My fault.
I mean, I think even if you're win seeking,
they're not that good.
Yeah, and Tampa and Baltimore are both in the hunt right here.
And they're battling hard for that division, and that's a bye. So I think they're going to be going all out.
The only scenario I would really think about is if maybe you're in a head-to-head playoffs and you go, I'm going to tank my ratios. I don't really care. I'm just going to go for strikeouts and wins. Yeah. And maybe you hope to sneak a win. But really you're looking for 10 strikeouts from the dude because he could do that.
The last time Houck faced Baltimore, which was just on September 8th, it was 5 runs in 5 1/3. So just pointing that out. Again, we talk about it all the time. Your previous start against a team doesn't mean you're definitely going to struggle against them, but this is a very difficult 2-step.
It is at Baltimore, which is, a decent place to pitch, right? Yep. So, but yeah, I wouldn't start him on your team. I'm not going to start him on mine.
There's very few scenarios. It's the Hail Mary. You're throwing everything at the wall. Go for it. Everything else, I'd be pretty dang careful here. Mm-hmm. What about Alec Marsh? This is definitely a deeper league situation, especially because he hasn't gone 5 in any of these last 3 outings, but they haven't been terrible, at least in the composite. It's a 3.55 ERA with 13 strikeouts in his last 12 2/3 across these 3 starts, and he won the last 2 because he's been a follower. So this is a 2-start, quote unquote. It's a 2-follow. So the fact that he isn't going 5 doesn't kill you as long as they're giving him an opener. What do you think of Alec Marsh here? He gets at Detroit and home to the Yankees. Pretty good setup. Are you interested in Alec Marsh with an opener?
I think it's a very similar situation to Houck, right?
I like him a little bit more, believe it or not.
Yeah. Especially because the matchups are better and both parks he's facing in. So he's at Detroit, good place to pitch. He's home versus the Yankees, good place to pitch, right? Yep. So in that context, I think I do like him a little bit better than Houck. And so I would, and he's probably widely available.
For sure.
he's available in a lot of 15s right now.
I would
so
agree.
I think he's one of those guys, especially if you are, I know there's a lot of people who play in like daily pickup leagues where I would pick him up, drop him, pick him up for the second start. If I'm just looking to churn over that pitching roster and get as many, players in as possible. So
yeah, I think that makes some sense with Alec Marsh. I will say the wins, he won his last two. They might not be so easy because he does face Reese Olson and Michael King as the counterparts. And we're going to talk about one of those guys momentarily who looks like an absolute monster down the stretch here. So, also, and obviously it's KC's support. So that's going to make it tough too. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, just a reminder to people, I know a lot of people do this already, but for those who may not know this strategy, if you have a starts limit in a league, most formats will let you go over that starts limit on the last day you hit it, right? So let's say you are at 199 starts on Saturday, and Sunday comes around. You can start 8 guys. They'll count all the stats.
Yep.
So
because they don't know how to like cut it off.
Yeah. They once like the scoring period starts for that day, like it doesn't close off until the end of that scoring period for the day. So Marsh pitches on Sunday. So if you're getting close to that starts limit on Sunday, you could use him as one of like 5 or 6 guys.
Chuck it all against the wall at that point. Maybe you're throwing Houck in that situation too. If you are just trying to go for as much volume as possible and you are up against that starts limit, that's always a fun little trick that you can pull. I played in the ESPN head-to-head and they banned that move.
But did they?
Yeah, like and it has to be policed, right? There's no way to like make the system do it. So our commish would have to go through and make sure you didn't do it. Because I remember my first week in there, I did it on Sunday. I had like 7 starts, which was basically put me, 5 over the max. And I'm like, what's wrong with that? ESPN allows it. Well, we don't. And that's why you got to read your rules, folks. This was years ago, but I did not read the rules completely. And thankfully you get 1 grace period on that one. But if you had done it again, then they were just going to give you the zeros there. So yeah, know your rules. But if you can do that, that's a great call out by Justin there. Alec Marsh at Detroit, home to the Yankees. As a follower, does have some intrigue. Let's go to Ryan Pepiot, who might have been a no-brainer if it wasn't for this first start, which is at Colorado, and then he heads out to your Giants. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, or, never mind. It's 1 up, 1 down is what I mean to say. It's the super difficult Colorado, but then the really nice trip to San Francisco, at least in terms of the park. I know your boys are not terrible, but I would still be eager for that one. So at the very least, Pepiot at San Francisco for the daily leaguers who can maneuver that 100%. But what about us weekly league folks that have to take all or nothing? Are you going for Ryan Pepiot, who's been really strong down the stretch?
So here's the thing. What kind of pitches do struggle in Coors?
Breaking balls.
He doesn't throw a ton of breaking balls necessarily, right? Like he's fastball change mostly. I think I rolled. He's been really good.
I'm going with it. Absolutely.
Like you and I were talking before we started in Tout Wars. I'm trying to catch Brett Sayer for first.
Who's been cooking, you said.
Yeah, he's been great all year, and I've just been slowly reeling him in. We got like 3.5 point lead. I need ratios. That's all I really need, right? Like I'm probably gonna go 5, maybe even 6 relievers, with Glass now being one of the pitch starters I use. Pepiot is another one I think I'm gonna use, even though I only really need ratios. I'm in 70 strikeouts, away from the next guy, and 70 strikeouts guy behind me away. So like I maybe need some wins and ratios. And I think even though he's in Colorado, I think I might go Pepiot as one of my guys.
I don't blame you.
It's just he's been so good. He gets a second start at San Francisco, which at that point I might roll out, or they might roll me out.
Yeah.
Since Brandon Crawford's on the IL, they can bring a different old guy to come play shortstop. So
you can still pick it. I trust you turn those double plays.
I can't pick it. I bending over that far that quickly is just,
especially when you're not getting good sleep. Shouts to my boy Greg. I haven't mentioned my friend Greg yet. His obligatory mention. He was on the Pepiot's Command is Better train early, and he put me on that because I was saying early, I was like, I don't want Pepiot. I'm going for the Gavin Stones and the Emmett Sheehan's more because Pepiot is a walk machine. Well, he saw it in spring, Greg did. It carried over in the minors, and then here in the majors this year, he's at a 3% walk rate. This is a major development because the 17% that he had in 36 innings last year, that's not necessarily who he was, but he was always a double-digit walk rate guy. So I was like, this guy just can't throw strikes. He's a reliever risk. Command and control are not there. And Greg was on it early that, like, no, he's made real changes here. He's someone to get. I picked him up on Greg's recommendation, and Pep's been wonderful. 191 ERA, 071 whip in his 33 major league innings. I'm starting him even with the Coors start, 100%.
Good luck to Greg. He's in fourth overall in the main.
Fourth overall.
He probably can't catch first unless he can't catch first. But
it'd be
Brian Slack, another friend of ours, who I'm going to be spending the last day of the season with.
Don't jinx it though. No, he's in first.
He's got a 200-point lead going into the last week.
Good spot to be in.
Good luck to Greg, who legitimately has a really real shot at second.
Absolutely.
I'm looking. I'll be watching those standings along with Brian Slack on Sunday, and I'll be rooting for Greg to get up to second. So
obviously, there's nothing like being in your own race, but I've been sweating hard on both y'all's stuff. I check y'all's stuff all the time, yours and Greg's, in your respective chases, and really pulling for both of y'all to finish as high as you possibly can. Like you said, second is in the cards for Greg. He's at 68-14 there in fourth, and 68-56 is in second. So that's very much in play, and he's been sweating it like crazy. Good thing he didn't get a bad bed delivery, because I know that he is on edge 100% as well. Let's move over to a little bit of the opposite of Ryan Pepiot. We're talking about a guy who's dominant and absolutely crushing everyone. A little bit more of a finesse guy, another kitchen sink type, and that's Adrian Houser. He gets two at home against the Cards and Cubs. So not the most difficult matchups here. And we did mention the Cubs. They are a good offense, but they have been floundering a little bit. Meanwhile, Houser, he's kind of like the NL Cal Quantrill, right? You don't really know how he gets it done in terms of the ratings, or excuse me, in terms of the skills that we look at. But the ratios are always there, seemingly. And no one's doing backflips for a 4.35 ERA, but his skills probably should net something quite a bit higher. And down the stretch here, since August 3rd, his last 7 starts, it's a 4.19 ERA with 34 strikeouts, 7 walks in 34 innings. That's a 3.41 FIP there. So he's probably been deserving a little bit better results there for Adrian Houser. But he's missing some bats, which is pretty impressive. What do you think of this 2-step both at home for Adrian Houser?
Yeah, I watched the Miami start that he had 2 starts ago, and he looked pretty good. He looked like the old Adrian Houser, who's a guy you can get in trouble because he does allow a lot of contact, but also can pitch out of that trouble because he just does such a good job of controlling the zone. So I think my only concern is the Brewers will have the division locked up this weekend, more than likely, and there's a chance he gets a 3 or 4 inning start, and maybe even 2, 3 or 4 inning starts. So I think if you're win seeking, you need to go a different direction. But if you're just looking for ratios, then he's one of those guys that could give you 3 scoreless or 4 scoreless, in 2 different starts. So
it could be similar to Elder, though, where they don't necessarily have to protect him because things are locked, and he'll be a later starter. So it's valid to bring that up, that teams do rest guys, and he's not super young or anything. He's 31, so they might just say, okay, you've had a great season. We need you out of the bullpen in the playoffs. Here's 3 innings on Sunday. So you're right to bring it up, but they might just say, do your thing. We might have they're not going to have a bye because that's going to be the Dodgers and the Braves, but they might not need him to be fully rested to be pitching out of the bullpen in that playoff set. So I
also want to throw out too, because they have everything wrapped up, there's no way, they're not going to lose playoff seeding or gain playoff seeding. They could let him wear something. So
That's a great call too. And also to that point about the win seeking thing, they might just play a bunch of scrubs with him too. Like they
yeah,
might be, you're talking about maybe he gets slowed down. Well, let's say they don't worry about his innings, but they take out Adames, William Contreras, Christian Yelich. And I know this maybe
Yelich
feels
already
weird to
been out.
include.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe Josh Donaldson too, because he's been cooking. Believe it or not, he's actually
Mhm.
been doing something with the Brewers there. So sitting him might actually be a bit of a bummer. So they might sit a bunch of guys in that way, and like you said, let him wear something so that they don't have to use Yoel Piamps or Devin Williams. Like their best reliever. So that's a good point too. There is risk here for sure. I
Yeah.
would not automatically start him. He's a consideration, but I think it's really situational dependent for
Yeah.
me where I got to be in kind of a dire situation to go for him. All right, this stud, this absolute monster.
Yeah. I
He's
don't know why
only
this ace is even on this
I don't
list.
either, but he's 56% at Yahoo, so I
Yeah.
thought it was worth including Michael freaking King. If that doesn't go up quite a bit, and listen, I know there's dead leagues out there. Not everyone is playing their ass off at this point in the year, but if that doesn't go up, then I don't know what's going on over at Yahoo because 56% needs to jump. This guy's been an absolute stud, and Michael King gets at Toronto, at KC, and he's coming off a 13 strikeout game against Toronto that he lost. He took the L with 1 run, 7 innings,
Mhm.
1 run, and they lost. Good job there, New York. But he's been absolutely incredible since joining the rotation back on August 24th. Michael King has 28 and a third innings of a 127 ERA with, wait for it, 42 strikeouts
Yeah.
and a one flat whip, actually 0.99 because it's 28 and a third with 28 base runners. He's been a monster. I think we're both saying automatic yes on
Yeah.
signing him. Is he your all in push with the fab that you have left if you're chasing pitching?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's been amazing. Like, I'm going to say something that's probably hyperbolic, and obviously, I'm going to do more research and digging in as I do my projections
Is
on
this going to be
him
about next
later.
year? Because I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
next year. So go ahead.
But why isn't he next year's Jeffrey Springs?
No, exactly. Right. We've been, we talked about maybe is Zach Littell that since it was on the same team. Clearly not. He doesn't have that same
Yeah.
dominance. Michael King is somebody who could be that guy because I do think that this should be a springboard for him to start next year. He's 29. He clearly has the skills to do it. He's been going, like I said, he went 7 in that one, 4 2/3 to start before that, 5, 5, 4. Like he can start. He's a legit starter here, and I think Michael King could be an absolute G for the Yankees. So yeah, I'm with you. I think the Jeffrey Springs comp, Drew Rasmussen, whoever you want to use as the reliever conversion, makes a lot of sense for Michael King.
He's going to finish with over 100 innings this year for the Yankees. So, like 150 innings next year as a projection, I don't think is out of pocket.
Not at all. He's 29.
And
They don't have to baby him.
yeah, exactly. So, they've got 3 more years of control on him too. So, like that's a really nice find for the Yankees. So,
Yeah, it really like injuries have slowed him down a little bit in the past with some of these years, but Michael King is really good, and I think he's going to be a winter guy that just starts to go up, up, and up as people kind of realize, some of the people that check out a little early, maybe they moved over to their football because they were out of it, and they might have missed this. As they come back into baseball, they're like, what the hell did Michael King do down the stretch? Especially if he puts 2 more gems on top of what he's already done. So yeah, definite start, definite pickup in those shower leagues where he's available. Push all in for him.
Yep.
Paul Blackburn gets trips to Minnesota and the Angels. Unfortunately, if you're going to start in Oakland A, you probably want him to be at home, but those venues aren't necessarily crazy. The Twins can be a tough lineup. The Angels, not so much. I think Jason has taken to calling them the Salt Lake Bees, which is the AAA ball club of the Angels. Paul Blackburn has not been too bad down the stretch at all. If you go back, you lop off that first start out of the break, which was against Boston, he gave up 6 runs. Since that point, July 22nd, he has a 3.10 ERA with 57 Ks in 58 innings. Paul Blackburn's been pretty nice. Now, the only downside is 2 of his last 3 only went 3 innings.
Yeah.
Because his pitch count was worked way up because he can run into some walk issues as well. Obviously, if you're win seeking, Paul Blackburn is not your guy. He might get a win, but it's the A's, so I would not bet on that in any way, shape, or form. So what do we think here? Paul Blackburn at Minnesota at the Angels.
I may end up rolling them out in my main event just because I have them on my roster.
I mean, been doing well.
I legit have $1 left, so like I can only drop one dude. So
yeah,
I've got to go with what I'm working with. So he's probably going to be in my lineup this week, which is scary and sad to me. But for the rest of you, I probably wouldn't do this one. I mean, you are talking about a guy who's unlikely to win a game because they are facing the Angels though, and like the Angels at this point, I mean, is their lineup that much worse than the A's? I think that's about the same.
It's not good. We've talked about how unbelievably they've been ravaged by injuries. You look up and down that lineup, it's not great, Bob.
Brett Rooker has 28 home runs.
Shouts to him because I thought, he had the fast start. He's eaten against lefties quite a bit. And, he did fade from that fast start, but he didn't melt. And I thought he might evaporate. I thought he might Brian LaHare it a bit. But 28 and 241 from a guy that you waiver wired, not bad. Not bad at all for Brent Rooker. So good call out there. But with Blackburn, there are some scenarios, but there aren't many. Because like I said, wins chasing, not going to do it for you. And ratios, like there's no guarantees there either. So probably not doing this in very many scenarios. What about Zack Thompson for St. Louis? He gets a trip to Milwaukee and then hosts Cincinnati. Are you interested in the young lefty for the Cards?
Only a little bit because Milwaukee can be really bad against left-handed pitching. And so for that reason, I am somewhat interested. The problem is then you get Cincinnati, and I just, I know Cincinnati hasn't been like summer hot or like Reds hot,
sure,
Cincinnati, but like that's a tough lineup, and Zack Thompson isn't what we would call good
dominant
at pitching.
No, he's not bad, but he's not dominant, and I think he could get beat up by both these lineups here. Like, they could both get him.
His last 3 starts have come with strikeouts, but they've only been 5 innings deep, with 3 or 4 earned runs apiece. So, I mean, if you're trying to protect your ratios at all at this point, it's a no. But if you're streaming for wins and strikeouts, I get it. Who knows what kind of lineup Milwaukee rolls out. Milwaukee's not good against lefties anyways. Cincinnati, while I think they probably will still be, factoring in late in the week, by that point, they might know.
They could be cooked.
Yeah, they could either be cooked or in the playoffs, depending on how things finish out. So, if you're win seeking and going for strikeouts, I get it. If not, then no.
Yeah, Zack Thompson does make the consideration list, but certainly not somebody who is anywhere near a must. Your situation should dictate that. I lean, probably like 55 yes, 45 no, as a general idea. And then a couple Rangers. Martín Pérez is not guaranteed, but there is talk that he has worked his way back into the rotation and could get 2 starts here as they have a full week. So John Gray and Martín Pérez both get trips to the Angels and the Mariners. Let's start with Gray. What do you think?
So we got a question on Twitter. Should I start John Gray this week or take a 0? And I didn't answer. You answered, but I liked your answer because I agreed with it. And you should have taken the 0. Sorry, but that fucking
not great.
It's like
great. Absolutely melted. 2 1/3.
Right process, but again, like I said last episode, sometimes the right process fucking stings when that happens. So hopefully that didn't sink his season. But I mean, again, I think this is another one of those situations where if I was going to say if I was strikeout seeking, maybe.
No, if I'm win seeking, maybe, but
no, John Gray hasn't gone more than
that's what I was. Yeah,
3 2/3 in his last. Like he's not winning. Actually, I don't think there's any scenario in which I'd start John Gray.
Martín Pérez might be who I go for if I'm win seeking.
He's actually looked pretty decent.
Yeah, I'm pretty out on Gray. So let's shift over to Martín Pérez. He did throw 4 2/3 in bulk. In fact, by the way, if they want to give him an opener, that'd be wonderful. But I don't know if they're going to right now. It looks like, oh, in fact, he backed up Gray
Yeah,
in that game.
I think it's a piggyback situation. So
Well, that I'd be 100% fine with that because, of course, that increases your win potential. And of course, the Rangers are a quality team. I know they've had their struggles here down the stretch, but
then you're getting the Angels at the Angels and at Seattle
at the Mariners, yeah.
And so Seattle will most likely definitely still be fighting for a spot even up until that last day.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rangers will be too. The Angels suck. We just said it, right? We were just comparing them to the A's lineup. So yeah, I think I would take the gamble on Martín Pérez,
and he'll be available.
Yeah, especially if you need wins and ratios. Because if he goes 4 innings as a follower in both of those, you got a chance for a win and you got a chance to help your ratios a little bit, especially ERA. WHIP, maybe not so much because he's never been a good WHIP guy. So
correct.
But yeah.
I told y'all he was going to regress. It just took a whole year.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in him at all last year. He goes 196 of an excellent season. And then this year he became Martín Pérez again as a quality pitcher, like quality major league pitcher, but not so much for fantasy. But here down the stretch, he could be your guy in that final week. So definitely put him on your bid list and hope that he's actually the piggyback because I think that's his best chance to get you 2 dubs or at least one of them. So those are the guys there in the 2-step. If you have questions about anybody, hit us up on Twitter, or in the comments of this here. Obviously, I'll still be doing my SP chart. Sorry to those of you that read Thursdays, the wrong matchups loaded in, and I gave people a really big scare when they saw that Tariq Skubal was going to face the Dodgers. They were like, what? I thought he was facing Oakland because, like I said, the Wednesday matchups loaded in for Thursday, so I felt bad on that one. But Justin, I know it's going to be a crazy 10 days here, but best of luck to you. Hopefully you can find some good sleep. Are you and Jason going on Sunday?
We are with guest Jake Crumpler from Pitcherless.
Fantastic.
And then we will not be recording the last Sunday of the season. One, because I don't even know what the hell we would talk about, with only those games. And 2, because like I said, I'm going to head down to a bar with Toby and Brian Slack and Sammy Reed and
final day.
Bubba and sweat those final championships. I know you're not really hunting anything down, but I've got a few. I've got a few.
I'm sweating with y'all. I'll be like I said, keeping tabs on yours and Greg's teams, and really hoping that y'all can do, hold the leagues, but also do the best that you can in the overalls. I know we'll be talking throughout the weekend and into next week, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
Screw you, JCPenney.